For my sister's birthday, they rented a rooftop lounge, hired a photographer, and gifted her a Rolex. For mine, a leftover cupcake and a joke card that said, "Congrats on wasting another year." When I didn't laugh, my mom retorted, "Relax, it's just a joke unless you're still sensitive." I just snapped a photo of the table and walked out. That night, my cousin reached out yelling, "What did you do?" I, 29M, never thought a single photograph could destroy everything my family had built over decades, but sometimes the truth has a way of demanding its moment in the spotlight. The contrast hit me like a freight train when I walked into our dining room last Tuesday evening. 3 weeks earlier, the entire family had gathered on a rooftop lounge downtown for my sister's 26th birthday. Professional photographer, champagne fountain, live jazz quartet, and a $15,000 Rolex wrapped in Tiffany blue. The works. My parents had spent months planning every detail, making sure their precious daughter felt like royalty. For my birthday, a grocery store cupcake with the frosting already smudged, sitting alone on our kitchen table next to a gas station greeting card. The kind with a cartoon character making some lame joke about getting older. When I opened it, the message inside made my stomach drop. "Congrats on wasting another year." The silence in the room was deafening. Mom stood there with this expectant smile, waiting for me to laugh at what she clearly considered peak comedy. Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. My sister scrolled through her phone, probably posting another selfie with her new watch. I stared at the card for what felt like an eternity. 29 years of feeling like the family afterthought suddenly crystallized into this single moment. All those times they'd forgotten my school plays, but never missed hers. All those Christmas mornings where her pile of gifts towered over my modest stack. All those family photos where I somehow always ended up slightly out of frame. When the laughter didn't come, Mom's expression shifted to that familiar look of annoyance mixed with disappointment. She told me to relax, that it was just a joke unless I was still being sensitive about everything. The word "still" cut deep because it implied this was my ongoing character flaw rather than their consistent pattern of treating me like an inconvenience. Something inside me snapped, but not in the explosive way you might expect. Instead, I felt this cold, calculated clarity wash over me. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the pathetic birthday setup. The sad cupcake, the cruel card, the empty chairs where a celebration should have been happening. Then I walked out without saying a word. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at that photo, then scrolling back to the dozens of pictures from my sister's rooftop party that had been posted all over social media. The comparison was so stark it almost looked fake, like someone had deliberately created a before and after demonstration of favoritism. That's when the idea hit me. I spent the next few hours carefully crafting a side-by-side collage. On the left, my sister's birthday celebration in all its glamorous glory. Professional lighting, designer dress, surrounded by family and friends, everyone beaming with joy. On the right, my birthday table. One cupcake, one mean-spirited card, empty chairs, harsh kitchen lighting that made everything look even more depressing. I wrote a simple caption, "Same parents, different priorities. Spot the favorite child." Then I posted it everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even LinkedIn for good measure. I tagged every family member, family friend, and acquaintance I could think of. No angry rant, no emotional outburst, just the raw visual evidence of 3 decades of unequal treatment. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, my phone had exploded with notifications. Hundreds of comments, shares, and private messages. The post had gone viral in our extended family and social circles. People were shocked, outraged, sympathetic. Some shared their own stories of family favoritism. Others called out my parents directly in the comments. My cousin called around noon, practically screaming through the phone. She demanded to know what I had done, why I was trying to destroy the family, how I could be so vindictive. Apparently, my aunt had seen the post and called my mom, who then had a complete meltdown. My dad's work colleagues had started asking him uncomfortable questions. My sister was getting pitying looks from her friends. But I wasn't done. Over the next few days, I methodically went through years of family photos and social media posts, documenting the pattern. My sister's sweet 16 party versus my 16th birthday, which they forgot entirely. Her college graduation celebration versus mine, where they showed up 20 minutes late and left early. Her job promotion dinner at the country club versus my promotion announcement, which got a distracted, "That's nice" from Dad. I created a whole series of comparison posts, each one meticulously captioned with dates and context. Not angry or bitter, just factual observations about the disparity in treatment. The online response was overwhelming. Local news stations even picked up the story after it started trending with hashtags like favorite child and family truth. The real earthquake came when my grandmother saw the posts. Grandma had always been the family peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over conflicts and insisted we all get along. But seeing the documented evidence of how her son and daughter-in-law had treated me sparked something fierce in her. She called my dad and unleashed 30 years of pent-up disappointment about his parenting choices. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She changed her will. My parents had always assumed they'd inherit Grandma's house and substantial savings, with plans to split everything equally between my sister and me eventually. But Grandma decided that equal treatment should start now, not after I'm gone. She revised her will to leave everything directly to me, with a note explaining that she was simply balancing the scales after decades of watching her son favor one grandchild over the other. When word of this got out, the family dynamic shifted completely. Update 1. The fallout escalated faster than I had anticipated. My sister showed up at my apartment 3 days after Grandma's will change became family knowledge. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. Her usual confidence was completely shattered. She told me she never realized how differently our parents treated us, that she'd always assumed I just preferred smaller celebrations. The tears seemed genuine, but I'd heard similar apologies before during family conflicts that got swept under the rug once the heat died down. What surprised me was her next admission. She confessed that she'd felt pressure her entire life to be the perfect daughter, to justify all the attention and resources our parents invested in her. The Rolex wasn't even something she wanted. She'd have preferred a simple dinner with close friends. But Mom had insisted on the elaborate celebration to show off to their social circle. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then she asked if I would consider talking Grandma out of changing the will, suggesting we could work together to convince our parents to treat me better going forward. The audacity was breathtaking. Even in her moment of supposed enlightenment, she was still thinking about what she could gain from the situation. I told her the damage was already done, that this wasn't about money or inheritance, but about 29 years of feeling invisible in my own family. She left without another word. My parents' response was more predictable. Dad called it a miscommunication and suggested we all sit down for family therapy. Mom oscillated between blaming me for airing dirty laundry and claiming she'd always treated us equally. Neither seemed to grasp that the problem wasn't their intentions, but the documented reality of their actions. The social media posts continued to spread beyond our immediate circle. A family psychology blogger had written an entire article analyzing the comparison photos, using them as a case study in parental favoritism and its long-term psychological effects. The post had been shared thousands of times, with people from around the world sharing their own similar experiences. But the most unexpected response came from my employer. Update 2. My boss called me into her office the following Monday morning. I'd been dreading this conversation, worried that the viral nature of my family drama might reflect poorly on my professional reputation. Instead, she offered me a promotion. Apparently, the marketing team had seen my posts and was impressed by what they called my authentic storytelling and strategic content creation. They wanted to bring me into their digital communications department, handling social media campaigns for major clients. The irony wasn't lost on me that my family's dysfunction had accidentally launched a career opportunity. The new position came with a significant salary increase and relocation options. For the first time in years, I felt like I had real control over my future. Meanwhile, the pressure on my parents was mounting from unexpected directions. Their country club friends had started asking pointed questions about the viral posts. My dad's business partners were making uncomfortable jokes about family favoritism. Mom's book club had apparently spent an entire meeting dissecting the photos and debating whether they would have noticed the disparity if they were in similar situations. My sister had gone radio silent on social media, which for her was equivalent to entering witness protection. Her usual stream of lifestyle photos and inspirational quotes had stopped completely. Friends told me she'd been asking mutual acquaintances whether they thought she was spoiled or entitled, desperately seeking reassurance that her entire identity wasn't built on unearned privilege. But the most significant development happened when my uncle reached out. Dad's younger brother had always been the black sheep of the family, the one who'd moved across the country and only showed up for major holidays. He called to tell me he'd experienced similar treatment growing up, though social media hadn't existed to document his experience. He'd spent decades in therapy working through the psychological impacts of being the unfavored child in a family that claimed to treat everyone equally. He offered me something my parents never had, validation that my perceptions were accurate and my feelings were justified. More importantly, he warned me about what would come next. According to him, my parents would go through predictable stages: denial, anger, bargaining, and eventually a form of acceptance that would still somehow center their own victimhood. He advised me to document everything, keep saving money, and prepare for them to either completely cut me off or attempt to love-bomb me back into compliance once they realized the social pressure wasn't going away. His prediction proved accurate sooner than expected. Update 3. 2 weeks after our conversation, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced with what they clearly considered a peace offering. A check for $15,000, the exact amount they'd spent on my sister's Rolex, along with a written apology and a promise to do better. The apology was a masterclass in non-apology language. They acknowledged that I felt unfairly treated, expressed regret for any misunderstandings about their intentions, and promised to be more mindful of my sensitivities in the future. Every word was carefully chosen to avoid actually admitting wrongdoing while appearing to take responsibility. I handed the check back unopened and told them that this wasn't something that could be fixed with retroactive equality or surface-level behavior changes. The damage was deeper than money could reach, rooted in decades of feeling fundamentally less valued as a person. Mom's facade cracked first. She demanded to know what else I wanted from them, what it would take to make this situation go away. When I explained that I didn't want anything except acknowledgement of the reality I'd lived with, she accused me of being vindictive and manipulative, of using social media to embarrass them for attention. Dad tried a different approach. He suggested that maybe I was right about some things, but that families weren't perfect and everyone makes mistakes. He painted my public documentation as an overreaction, asking why I couldn't have just talked to them privately about my concerns. The conversation ended when I asked them a simple question. If the roles had been reversed, if I had been the favored child and my sister had posted those comparison photos, what would their reaction have been? The silence that followed gave me all the answer I needed. They left without taking their check, and I haven't heard from them since. My sister made one final attempt at reconciliation a few days later. She suggested that we could be allies now, that this experience had opened her eyes to privilege and favoritism in ways she'd never considered before. She proposed that we work together to educate other families about the dangers of unequal treatment. But when I asked if she would be willing to publicly acknowledge the disparities in our treatment and support my perspective in the ongoing family discussions, she hesitated. She worried about how it might affect her reputation, her relationships, her standing in the family. Even in her moment of supposed growth, she was still more concerned about protecting her position than supporting justice. The viral posts eventually died down, as internet attention spans always do. But the changes they sparked in my life have been permanent. I took the promotion and relocated to a different city, far enough away to build my own life, but close enough to maintain relationships with family members who actually valued me, like my grandmother and uncle. 6 months later, I heard through the family grapevine that my parents had quietly started seeing a therapist, though apparently they spent most sessions talking about how to repair their reputation rather than examining their parenting patterns. My sister had started therapy too, finally beginning to unpack a lifetime of conditional love and performance pressure. Grandma never changed her will back. When I visited her recently, she told me she had no regrets about her decision. She said she'd spent too many years watching her son repeat the same favoritism patterns his own father had demonstrated, and she was tired of enabling a cycle that had damaged multiple generations. As for me, I've never been happier. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not constantly measuring myself against my sister or desperately trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The photograph that started everything still gets shared occasionally by people discussing family dynamics and favoritism, usually accompanied by comments from others who recognize their own experiences in those stark comparisons. Sometimes people ask if I regret exposing my family's dysfunction so publicly, if I wish I'd handled things differently. The truth is, I spent 29 years handling things quietly, swallowing my hurt, making excuses for their behavior, and hoping they'd eventually notice the disparity and correct it on their own. The only thing I regret is waiting so long to demand the respect I'd always deserved. The cupcake has long since been thrown away, but I kept the cruel birthday card. Not as a reminder of their cruelty, but as proof that sometimes the most devastating weapons are the simplest ones: a camera phone, an internet connection, and the courage to let the truth speak for itself.